Chapter 49. Kirk. When did everybody become so lost? Kirk held up the brochure Jillian had placed on the table next to his recliner. Your mom went to God knows where to find herself. Fisher left his job to walk the El Camino del Santiago on a spiritual quest. Now you want to go to a place where their main agricultural crop is weed? Oh, Dad, don't be so cynical. I should be bitter and skeptical after being dumped and abandoned by Connor. Jillian moved next to Kirk. But I'm not, thanks to you and the group I joined to help us jilted lovers. That sounds ancient. Jillian laughed, which prompted Kirk to do the same. Why don't we give it a try? It would be a good road trip. Jillian tapped her fingers on the arm of the sofa, waiting for his answer. You can take off that long from work? It'll be at least a 2-week drive, then a 5-day retreat. Not really, but I can work anywhere there's internet service, and that's just about everywhere now. Oh, okay. Let's try some of this California tree-hugging therapy. There's no denying we have old wounds to heal, and after my encounter with the new caustic neighbor, I have some new ones too. What happened, Jillian? Some folks are joy killers. Seem like it's their life's calling. Whatever. Not worth talking about right now. Kirk nodded. Now back to this adventure. Well, lots of things are there besides weed growing. A great art colony is close by. Parts of Murder, She Wrote were filmed there, so we could check out that place. And we can swim in the Pacific Ocean. Compare it to the Atlantic and the intercoastal waterway you've been staring at way too long. Before Jillian and Millicent came to live with him, Kirk had not ventured further than his pool deck or the pier that went into the intercoastal waterway. He did start playing a few rounds of golf, but not at his usual course. He wasn't welcome there anymore. The snub bothered him at first, but soon he looked forward to playing with his new buddies at the less prestigious course. They were down to earth and often had tales to share and things to talk about other than making money and toxic political topics. It was not the most pleasant circumstance that brought Jillian back home. The abrupt breakup was devastating, but she was not destroyed by it. Kirk supported her throughout her pregnancy, and when Catherine Grace arrived to join Millicent, who was with them at the time, the two girls kept them busy. Jillian even ventured into dating again, but none of the relationships developed into anything serious. Well, where will Catherine be while we're at the retreat? Does she need to deal with her old wounds too? A tinge of sarcasm colored his words. Yeah, right, Dad. Stop being cantankerous. Let me check the calendar. Is it a full moon or what? Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I can admit I fear growing old alone. I mean, you and the girls have been... I know, Dad. It's not the same as... I know what you mean. Believe me, I do. Well, do you want to make this a road trip? I've never been across the country like that. When I was working, I crisscrossed all the time by air. But you don't see much from 33,000 feet. Clouds and blue skies, not the same as deserts and mountains, Dad. I just had a great thought. Oh boy, I'm being set up for something else, am I? What have you and Catherine cooked up now? Rose might let Millicent come with us. She and Catherine would be company for each other. That's a good idea. Do you think Millicent would be okay away from her mom that long? Ah, come on, Dad. Your puppy memory is kicking in. Millicent was with us more than Rose until last year. She was so batshit crazy because your son, my brother, went off and left them that she couldn't think straight. She can't come because she just got established in a good job. Well, good for her. She will welcome a break from looking after Millicent while trying to work. Well, let's do it old school hippie style. I'm going to look for a Volkswagen van. Not a piece of shit, but something good and dependable, with air, of course. Kirk grabbed his laptop and went to the Canvas Cabana to start his search. He had a few months to make a purchase, have it checked out, worked on if need be, and maybe have peace signs painted all over it. The girls would get a kick out of that. Chapter 49. Kirk. When did everybody become so lost? Kirk held up the brochure Jillian had placed on the table next to his recliner. Your mom went to God knows where to find herself. Fisher left his job to walk the El Camino del Santiago on a spiritual quest. Now you want to go to a place where their main agricultural crop is weed? Oh, Dad, don't be so cynical. I should be bitter and skeptical after being dumped and abandoned by Connor. Jillian moved next to Kirk. But I'm not, thanks to you and the group I joined to help us jilted lovers. That sounds ancient. Jillian laughed, which prompted Kirk to do the same. Why don't we give it a try? It would be a good road trip. Jillian tapped her fingers on the arm of the sofa, waiting for his answer. You can take off that long from work? It'll be at least a 2-week drive, then a 5-day retreat. Not really, but I can work anywhere there's internet service, and that's just about everywhere now. Oh, okay. Let's try some of this California tree-hugging therapy. There's no denying we have old wounds to heal. And after my encounter with the new caustic neighbor, I have some new ones too. What happened, Jillian? Some folks are joy killers. Seem like it's their life's calling. Whatever. Not worth talking about right now. Kirk nodded. Now back to this adventure. Well, lots of things are there besides weed growing. A great art colony is close by. Parts of Murder, She Wrote were filmed there, so we could check out that place. And we can swim in the Pacific Ocean. You know, compare it to the Atlantic and the intercoastal waterway you've been staring at way too long. Before Jillian and Millicent came to live with him, Kirk had not ventured further than his pool deck or the pier that went into the intercoastal waterway. He did start playing a few rounds of golf, but not at his usual course. He wasn't welcome there anymore. The snub bothered him at first, but soon he looked forward to playing with his new buddies at the less prestigious course. They were down to earth and often had tales to share and things to talk about other than making money and toxic political topics. It was not the most pleasant circumstance that brought Jillian back home. The abrupt breakup was devastating, but she was not destroyed by it. Kirk supported her throughout her pregnancy, and when Catherine Grace arrived to join Millicent, who was with them at the time, the two girls kept them busy. Jillian even ventured into dating again, but none of the relationships developed into anything serious. Well, where will Catherine be while we're at the retreat? Does she need to deal with her old wounds too? A tinge of sarcasm colored his words. Yeah, right, Dad. Stop being cantankerous. Let me check the calendar. Is it a full moon or what? Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I can admit I fear growing old alone. I mean, you and the girls have been... I know, Dad. It's not the same as... I know what you mean. Believe me, I do. Well, do you want to make this a road trip? I've never been across the country like that. When I was working, I crisscrossed all the time by air. But you don't see much from 33,000 feet. Clouds and blue skies, not the same as deserts and mountains, Dad. I just had a great thought. Oh boy, I'm being set up for something else, am I? What have you and Catherine cooked up now? Rose might let Millicent come with us. She and Catherine would be company for each other. That's a good idea. Do you think Millicent would be okay away from her mom that long? Ah, come on, Dad. Your puppy memory is kicking in. Millicent was with us more than Rose until last year. She was so batshit crazy because your son, my brother, went off and left them that she couldn't think straight. She can't come because she just got established in a good job. Well, good for her. She will welcome a break from looking after Millicent while trying to work. Well, let's do it old school hippie style. I'm going to look for a Volkswagen van. Not a piece of shit, but something good and dependable, with air, of course. Kirk grabbed his laptop and went to the Canvas Cabana to start his search. He had a few months to make a purchase, have it checked out, worked on if need be, and maybe have peace signs painted all over it. The girls would get a kick out of that. Chapter 50. Christian. Oh, help me, help me. Guards rushed to the serving area of the chow line with their weapons drawn. Get back. 2 guards covered the officer, who knelt to check the inmate on the floor. One thrashed about in agonizing pain. 2 others remained quiet and stunned. Duty officers in the cafeteria retreated to the perimeter wall, hoisted their weapons, and ordered the inmates to stay in their seats. Lock down! Lock down! boomed throughout the penitentiary. Loud clanging noises resounded as bolts moved into place. Prisoners remained frozen just as they were when the blood-curdling wail filled the room. Rushing footfalls made their way across the tile floor to the serving area. There on the floor, inmate FPSCB-42 writhed in pain. He held his hand to his eyes. The skin of his face was slipping like that of a scalded tomato. "I don't know if this one is going to make it," said the attendant who helped put Christian onto a stretcher. The two inmates closest to him in line were carried away to be treated for less severe acid burns. Christian was 4 years into his 15-year sentence when a line worker dashed straight dishwasher cleaning solution into his face. Unfortunately, he had not closed his eyes quickly enough, so they were burned beyond repair, and his face was disfigured. Since the attack that was likely set up by his used-to-be boss, he sat for hours alone in his cell. All he could see was the past that flitted through his mind. He would never see the sea that surrounded St. Thomas, nor the palm trees that swayed in the breeze at St. Magan's Bay. He couldn't see the palmettos that dotted the landscape in this part of the U.S. He had another 5 years to go with a 10-year tail. He pondered being released. But life was hard within the joint, with its routine time for meals, yard exercise, count, and bedtime. None of that structure would exist on the outside. But he did want to get home again, just to smell the air and feel the beach sand if nothing more. He, like many inmates, found religion, commitment, or something to sustain them while incarcerated. He was no longer Christian, but Ishraq Sharik, Daybreak Rising in the East. His name was the light he could relate to now. He never read well, so there were no stories or poems to recall to entertain him in his darkness. School had been a boring challenge, and he could not wait to quit. From time to time, he thought of the incident that finally made him leave. He would not be humiliated any longer. "Excuse me, sir," a group of students from another island called out to him. "Can you tell us where the gymnasium is?" Christian looked surprised and asked them a question before he answered. "Sir, why you calling me that, my son? Are you a teacher or coach?" A group of classmates appeared in time to hear that exchange and burst out laughing. "Christian, a teacher?" The laughs grew louder. "Him barely a student. Him big enough to look like a teacher 'cause he flunked so many times." The visiting students put their hands up to their mouths to hide their grins at that revelation. Christian walked away, pretending the insults didn't bother him. But that was the last chance they had to make him the target of their jokes. Treatment at home was better. His mother encouraged him to use common sense. To him it meant being a trickster and finding ways to outwit convention. His self-aggrandizement led him to the street life, where he started as a petty hustler, selling rolled joints, but he moved up the chain quickly because of his cunning, sly, and even ruthless ways. He soon caught the attention of the big fish in the industry. Christian was the brash character he needed, and he used him to the max. It was this same cocky, self-assured attitude that landed Christian in the joint and got his eyes put out. The blindness left him vulnerable, but he learned to compensate for lack of sight. He'd put all his personals in one place so he could get himself ready for breakfast each morning without thrashing around looking for things. An inmate he had befriended came by his cell and led him to the cafeteria. "Is Sharik, you ready?" Lanky called out. The guard opened the cell. Sharik put his hand on his friend's shoulder and followed very closely behind him. When they walked into the cafeteria like a piggyback train, an inmate started toward them with his fist balled. "What the fuck is this? Look at him coupled up like that." "Man, come on, can't you see that dude back there is blind? Lanky just leading him." "Glad you told me. I was going to bust up these jailhouse honeymooners." With taunts and threats leveled at them, they stopped until Christian got a white cane with a red tip. Then the other inmates understood that he was being led, not just hanging on to a jailhouse lover. Sometimes in his darkness, he wondered about the other people who got caught up in this web of greed. Word was Noel had been a part of the setup. Before he lost his sight, he had spent time thinking of ways to be vengeful. Now, in his darkness, he planned ways to bring light into his world. Each Sunday, a different denomination came to provide church service. He made his way to the gathering place to absorb the goodness that was being imparted. Afterwards, he would find his way out to the yard so that he could get fresh air and sunshine. He tried to do that every day. It helped him to keep his sanity. In his cell, darkness was spirit-crushing. "Ishrak." He recognized the voice. "Yes, Sergeant Bailey." He made his way the few steps to the door. Would you be interested in listening to books on tape, or audiobooks, I think they call them? "I never have before, but I probably would like that." "All right, I'll let the warden know." His good behavior was paying off. As bad as his situation was, which was of his own making, he realized the good. He had never thought of reading a book before. Now he'd be able to listen to books that would fuel his imagination. The sergeant brought the portable recorder and wireless headphones to the cell. "They have a book ready for you." He put on the headphones and pushed the button as the sergeant instructed. "For real? Steps to Christ. That's my first lesson." Chapter 51. Grace. Gypsy was still in good condition for a girl more than 12 years old. Jackson had chosen a vehicle with excellent ratings, and it proved to be everything he said it was and more. Grace didn't need her while living in the river, so she stored her at one of the garage bays across from Chef's duplex. She paid by letting him use it for trips to Costco and Ukiah for large orders. Sometimes his sedan couldn't accommodate the loads he needed to bring back. Now Grace had her packed and ready to wind along Highway 128 through the redwoods and onto Interstate 5. She'd head to a beach with a bit more heat to it than the ones along the north coast. She loved walking the headlands out from Mendocino and strolling along Glass Beach, but she needed to break out of this cloistered life to see if the work she had done towards self-discovery had really stuck. She would never know, confined to the ridge, with people who said hello and continued on their way, unless she asked them for help. Then they gladly rallied to do so. Otherwise, they left her alone. A thought struck her and hit her in the gut. Self-discovery included protecting that part of yourself needed to live optimally. But it did not mean being selfish, callous, reneging on promises, and leaving friends in a lurch. She drove through a stand of redwoods that created a massive canopy. Shards of light shone through, giving the whole area a celestial aura. God, what am I thinking? She looked at the clock on the dash. It was breakfast time at the retreat. She knew from experience that the kitchen was a quiet hive of activity. Usually, Chef had one hired worker and depended on volunteers to help with the non-food prep duties. Suppose no one stepped up to help him. There were occasions where this was the case, and he'd be whirling like dervish to get everything done. He was a perfectionist and demanded that everything be as if it were a Michelin 5-star restaurant. The serving area in the cavernous dining room had state-of-the-art stainless steel warmers with shield guards. The tiled floor was waxed and buffed to a high gloss. The floor-to-ceiling windows were spotless, giving a clear view of the duck pond where the mallards and wood ducks lazily swam. We are remote, but never too far away from a surprise inspection. This is California, and the state doesn't let anyone fly under the health inspection radar. Really, Chef? I think those inspectors just like coming here. Get some good food, a ride in the pontoon, and a break from the Sacramento heat. Chef chuckled. Whatever the case, he never failed one of their planned or surprise inspections. Grace was approaching Gowan's oak tree. It was open. Whenever she left Albion going to Ukiah or Cloverdale, she stopped to get fresh walnuts or some of the variety of apples, plums, berries, or pears. There was a sampling station for seasonal produce and always wonderful cider. She loved the high level of consciousness to maintain and keep the historic and vintage buildings in the area. According to Gowan's brochure, this started when Grandma Gowan sat under the oak tree and sold apples. The family built a building with an open-air market in the 1930s. It was still standing. Inside Gypsy, she ate a handful of walnuts and slices of dried apples. Vineyards dotted the area with clusters of grapes draping from the leafy plants. She could sample some of their goods, but she didn't drink. They had cheeses, crackers, and other gourmet snack items to purchase, but she decided to go to Hendy Park. She'd take a walk around there before she tackled the corkscrew turns of Highway 128 that descended to Cloverdale. "Morning. It's a lovely day here," she said as she removed the park pass from the sun visor and handed it to the ranger. "It really is. Are you planning to camp?" "No, I'm going to stay a couple of hours, no more." The attendant processed her pass and handed it back. "Okay, you're good to go." Grace returned the pass to its usual place and waited for the guard arm to lift. "Thank you." She would rest and sleep in the parks that allowed it, but she was not ready to put down this close to home. Hotels and motel rooms were not what she wanted to hold up in, not even for a night's sleep. She would check in at least once a week to get a really good soak in a tub. The parks had showers, but many only had cold water, and it took the constitution of a polar bear to tolerate a lot of those. With Gypsy parked and secured, Grace walked the little Hindi trail that was a half-a-mile loop through the park's 20-acre redwood grove. Again, the ethereal heavenly aura and the lack of obtrusive man-made noises left her spellbound. She wasn't particularly religious, but had always been spiritual. More in the last few years than ever before. If this is what heaven is like, I look forward to walking about its unspoiled beauty. The squeal of a child pierced her bubble of silence. She turned to see the two small girls. "Yikes, Millicent, look at the frog." They came together to examine it more closely, daring not to touch the lumps, bumps, and roughness of the skin. "Come, girls, let's go. We've got more exploring to do before we go back." Grace watched as they skipped towards the two ladies who took their hands and guided them further along the path. She faintly heard, "Did you see anything else interesting, Catherine Grace?" She did not hear the little girl's answer, but noticed excited movement of both girls' heads going up and down. So adorably cute and curious, she thought. A longing filled her. She welcomed the feeling and then released it. She felt better, but the nagging did not leave her for abandoning Chef. She rushed to her van and turned west onto the highway. "I can get back in time to help him with lunch and the rest of the meals for the group." Mexico, San Diego, or wherever she planned to go could wait. After an hour of retracing her route, she drove down the narrow road with Gypsy hugging the hillside to keep from dropping into the ravine below. Chef's duplex was in the opposite direction of the cafeteria meeting room. She parked and hurriedly walked to the rear door of the kitchen and went in. Smells of chili scented the room, and soft rhythmic sounds punctured the otherwise quietness as assorted vegetables were being chopped for a salad. Grace ducked into the bathroom, washed her hands, then retrieved a fresh apron from the hook outside the door. Her entrance caused no pause. Chef entered from the cafeteria. In 2 gigantic strides, he came and embraced her. "Thank God you changed your mind. I have this wonderful volunteer, but I need you." Chef touched Jillian on the shoulder. She turned around and leaned against the large table. Chef caught Grace as she went limp. When both regained their composure, they hugged. "Okay, I'm missing something here, but I think I can figure it out. Do I need to get 2 replacement helpers?" "No, Chef." After the initial shock and spontaneous hug, they went about their duties to feed retreat participants. 2 other attendees offered to do the dishes, wipe down tables, and move them aside. The room would be rearranged for the next group presentation. All focused on these activities, giving Grace a little time to mull over her unexpected encounter with her daughter. "Thanks, ladies. We're off until 5 in the morning. Everyone is on their own for the evening meal. Those not going to Mendocino or maybe even to Fort Bragg can grab a sack meal to eat later." Grace and Jillian nodded. "Is it okay if we sit down at the fire circle?" Grace asked. "No problem. Want a little fire to sit by?" It was always chilly on the North Coast, and it was always suitable to have something radiating heat. "Thanks, Chef. I can get it going. I know where everything is." Chef threw up his hands. "It's all yours. I'm getting off my feet for a while." He walked toward his duplex. Why do they call him Chef? Seems like he does everything here. He does. "Mom?" Jillian looked at Grace, who stared into the flames. Grace faced her daughter. "I'm sorry." "No, Mom, I'm really sorry." Chapter 52. Kirk. Millicent and Catherine Grace raced toward Kirk. He stood beside the van waiting to pick them up from the sisters who were caring for them. The organizers of the retreat had thought of everything, it seemed, to ensure participants were stress-free. Grandpa, we saw the biggest frog. It was this big. Catherine, not so big. Millicent was bringing her cousin's arm into a more realistic size. That big, Grandpa. Catherine readjusted her earlier declaration. Millicent is right. That had to be a fright. Did it scare you? Oh, no, Grandpa. I wasn't scared at all. Were you, Millicent? She shook her head. He opened the door and hoisted the girls into the van. Get in your seats and buckle up. The road twisted and turned, and as he approached the coast, the elevation changed, revealing the beautiful Pacific Ocean. Girls, look. Through the rearview mirror, he saw them stir from their hour-long nap. Ah, Grandpa, can we go swimming? Catherine, the water is cold here. It's not like the water at home. That prompted a barrage of questions. Grandpa will explain it all later, sweetheart. I have to be careful with my driving right now, okay? All right, Grandpa. Kirk turned off the highway, past the post office and store, as he continued along the ridge road that led into the camp. Two ladies were sitting around the campfire down by the river. Is that Mommy? Who is she talking to, Grandpa? Probably another Mommy here at the retreat. Let me get parked and we'll go see. Keep your jackets on, girls. It's getting colder as the sun starts to set. Kirk and the girls zipped their jackets and put up the hoods. As they approached, they could hear the paddle of a canoe hitting the water. Jillian turned, hearing footsteps padding toward her. Mommy, guess what we... Catherine Grace looked at the lady sitting beside Jillian. I remember you. We saw you at the park where we saw the frog. Kirk stood in stunned silence when Grace went to the girls. She looked at Jillian. You didn't mention... I was getting to it. Millicent is Fisher's and Catherine is mine. And behind you is... Kirk? Kirk and Grace stood motionless. Do you know this lady, Grandpa? Jillian nudged the girls back toward him. He stooped down to face them, then looked at Grace. This is your grandmother, Grace. Oh, Grandpa, she's got my name. Millicent looked on, trying to find a part of herself in this newfound grandma. And she has bouncy hair and long fingers like mine. Right, Aunt Jillian? She sure does. An awkward silence filled the air. Even the girls stood quiet as if they were trying to figure out what was happening. Jillian picked up the container of water. Before she moved closer to the fire to douse it, she said, Does anyone want to go for pizza in Fort Bragg? I picked up a magazine about the area, and this one is tops, they say. Oh, yes, it is. They have great vegetarian selections, too, Grace said. Grace explained that she lived up on the ridge and needed to take Gypsy there so she could ride with them. We must be up early to get breakfast done, Dad. Chef had already arranged for Jenny to help him the rest of the week. The drive to Fort Bragg was more heart-dropping than the other routes, but just as beautiful. At one point, the highway appeared to go directly into the ocean before making a sharp turn. Dad, you're driving like you trained to be a NASCAR competitor. Grace sat in the back with the girls. They all had their eyes squeezed tight. When they got beyond the roller coaster part, she opened her eyes and said, Okay, girls, you can look now. In Fort Bragg, Kirk pulled in front of a strip of shops and restaurants. Okay, ladies, all out here. I'll find us a park. Jillian came around to unlatch the girls' car seats. Grace held out her hand to help them from the van. We'll wait for you out front, Dad. We can get our names on the list to be seated. It shouldn't take long, Grace added. They tightened the girls' hoodies and zipped their jackets. It was cold, even with heating lamps burning along the sidewalks. Each girl tucked close to them on the bench. Grace asked, How are sessions going? I plan to involve myself in some, but she drifted off. I attended one so far. Dad and I had a plan. I would attend one day and he'd go to the next. Didn't they have sitters arranged? Chef said, Oh yeah, we have sitters. But one of us wanted to be available in case of an emergency. Besides, some of the sessions are very early. Get up to appreciate the sunrise. The girls didn't need to be sleep-deprived because of us, so we'd take them around 9. I understand, Grace said. Party of 5, Subtleford? The hostess looked about, trying to locate them. That's us, Jillian said. Kirk walked up just as they were being called. The inside was comfortable, but not overly warm. After they placed their order, they continued the conversation from outside. I told Mom our plan for the retreat. That still is the plan, isn't it? Kirk was chewing the pizza he'd bitten into and nodded. Well, Grace offered with caution, I can take care of the girls. Then you and your dad can attend all the sessions. She then thought the suggestion was preposterous. She had been MIA for years, and now she wanted to be alone with these children. She instantly regretted the proposal. They didn't know how she had changed while they had been apart. Many things could happen, some good, others not so good. Aunt Jillian and Grandpa, let us stay with our new grandma. We have lots to show her. And the children shall lead the way. Yes, I can show that I can write her name and my name. You don't have to worry. We'll take good care of her, won't we, Millicent? Chapter 53. Grace. Grace believed nothing in life was a coincidence, and all experiences had purpose. Why did she choose Northern California to flee to? Why did she turn back when she had decided to leave? Jackson always informed her whenever an agent was coming to see her. Those encounters were quick and discreet. She, Kirk, and the Summer Breezes were part of multiple law enforcement entities to bring down the notorious Sancho drug trafficking operation. I suppose they'd visit Kirk also. Maybe in the future the two of them would be able to talk about it. That would be a starting point to rebuild their lives. Begin there and work backwards before moving forward. She owed him, her children, and now 2 granddaughters her true story. It was one she should have been prouder of and less ashamed about. She knew Kirk cheated during their married life, but did he know she did the same? This had to be brought to the light and dealt with before they could have a meaningful relationship. She wanted that more than ever with Millicent and Catherine Grace in the family. Jillian had gotten her head screwed on right. Her hair was no longer shocking pink, and the tattoo of a macaw on her right arm was gone. Most obvious. She was unrattled by events. From what Grace observed over their short time together, Jillian didn't stuff her emotions and overly emote. She had the right balance. Grace smiled because that pleased her. She looked at her cell phone. Kirk and the girls would be up on the ridge waiting to pick her up. They were on their way to Glass Beach to look at the collection there. Then they would go to Chapt and build a campfire for the girls to roast hot dogs and make s'mores. Chapter 54. Cyril. Mary, come quickly. Cyril pointed at the television, where a looping story on the international news showed a bloody shootout between the notorious Sancho cartel and one of its rivals. My word, Cyril, this is horrible. Mary turned her head away from the television. It was too brutal to watch. The commentator continued announcing details of the merciless acts. No one was spared. Young, old, women, children, and extended family members, even animals. This is to send a clear message that their operation is done. The footage had been recorded by the gang and sent to the news channels with orders to run it at once. One massacre site after the other filled the screen. No one escaped, the reporter said. Everyone annihilated. Babies, their future rivals. It will take many rains to wash away the blood. Cyril hit the remote and turned off the television. Well, it's unfortunate. So many people had to suffer that fate. Mary, that group caused a lot of pain and heartache. Mary's eyes misted. Claire and Billy, have you contacted them? She knew her grandson could have suffered the same fate if he and his mother were not totally protected by the government. Do you suppose they will ever come be with us, Cyril? He came close and pulled Mary in for a hug. It's difficult to say if they are ever able to. Claire knows how to get in touch. Maybe the next time we Skype with her and little Billy, we can suggest it. If that's not suitable, we will continue to enjoy our periodic visits. I know. Chapter 55. Kirk. Joy's mysterious disappearance haunted him. The island authorities did their in-depth investigation and could not produce any suspects. Those with a cloud of suspicion hovering over them never did anything to corroborate it. Kirk didn't know for certain, but he wondered if Joy's early life as an international flight attendant had been her entry into the lucrative drug market. He did remember presents that she picked up in St. Thomas and took back to New York. Being a part of the flight crew, her possessions were not screened or searched. Later it was revealed that flight attendants had unknowingly become mules. Before Joy stopped flying, she was disturbed by a visit the FBI made to an Atlanta-based attendant. She drove to St. Simon Island, where she found her horrified parents with FBI agents. They were waiting for her. "I'm too smart to get caught up in something like that," Joy had said. Kirk's mind churned with speculations. He had nothing concrete to back up his thoughts about her involvement in the illegal drug trade. His mind was an eddy. Who was Joy really? Did he know her, or did he know only the part of herself that she wanted him to know? Did she really have a husband? He never saw them together. It was true, there would be long lulls between their encounters, but over the years he should have bumped into them. And children? Her entry wall was lined with pictures of some that could have been hers, but he'd never seen them either. Damn. Was Joy real or just an illusion? She did teasingly call him Sancho a few times. Why Sancho, Joy? Everybody wants to be Don Quixote and Rocinante. You know, from the book, right? We'll be Sancho Panza and Dapple. They were the more sensible pair, even though one was a donkey. He remembered how she laughed. Who is what? Come to me, my friend and fellow sufferer, in all my hardships and sorrows. That's the answer, Joy? If it is, I'm still confused. Joy drew him to her breast and hugged him. It's not worth fretting about, Kirk. Isn't it true that we both suffer because of our circumstances? I didn't want to say we were the knight and his faithful horse, since he was a loon on a mission to defend the helpless and destroy the wicked. Joy laughed as if she had said the funniest thing ever. Reflecting, that would have been ludicrous, especially if she was engaged in an operation that did the opposite. Really, why had she referred to him as Sancho? The one in the novel went along with his delusional master in hopes of gaining something, didn't he? So did she think he was just her faithful tag-along? What was he to gain? Kirk examined his time with Joy from every angle. Nothing made sense to him now. He felt even more duped when it turned out Sancho was a mega dealer in the international drug trade. He wondered if she had been alluding to him with her Cervantes comparison. The biggest mystery was, did Joy have a connection to the Sancho cartel? Did he have anything to do with her disappearance? Or was she a player in his cartel and his rivals got rid of her? I must let this go. I can't live the rest of my life tethered to the mystery. But I will forever wonder who I thought I was in love with. Chapter 56. Grace. The warm glow of the fire pit made the June evening comfortable. Jillian and the girls went to Santa Cruz, so Grace and Kirk sat seemingly charmed by the flames. The hot chocolate heated her insides, and the cup felt good in her gloved hands. Kirk? Yes, Grace? He turned to face her. Remember the night at Limburg Beach? A dimming hurt was in his eyes. Grace, I am sorry. No, I'm not mentioning it to get an apology. I have a confession. Grace looked down at her mug and soft tears trailed down her face. Kirk reached over to touch her. I was so hurt. I know. Kirk, you don't have to say anything. Please just listen. He nodded. I've not been the faithful wife you thought I was. He looked at her with no outward display of emotion. Grace, we are divorced. You don't have to tell me anything. I know I don't have to, but I don't want you to believe that you were the total reason for our breakup. I have not been truthful in many ways. Grace refilled the cups and told Kirk of her real childhood, and when and why she assumed a different identity. I was a good student and smart enough to be accepted at university. I even had a sponsor who paid for everything that was not covered by my scholarships. Kirk sipped as he listened to Grace, his face displaying neither happiness, sadness, nor anger. You were very smart, Grace, but buried beneath all those school smarts was an insecure young woman, right? She nodded. Looking back, my early life was not as terrible as I thought it was. My mother worked hard. We always had a decent place to live, a car, and sufficient food. A lot of children didn't, and many still don't have that. I guess it was the times that made me feel like an oddball. All my friends had both parents, and I only had mother. Grace, having two parents didn't automatically mean more love and more resources. Grace, having two parents didn't automatically mean more love and more resources. Some of those home environments were toxic and detrimental to everyone in them. I know that now. I'm sorry I didn't tell my mother how much I appreciated her before I lost her. But I couldn't tell her because I didn't appreciate her, I guess, until now. I feel like such an ingrate. If people would be truthful, most didn't appreciate their parents, especially as young people. By the time we realize it, it's too late. They're gone. They sat looking into the campfire flames. Night sounds broke the silence that was so common in the area. Kirk reached over and touched her hand. I married you because I sincerely loved you. I knew more about you than I let you know. How's that? My dad and I had a real blowout about you. He had a PI check your story, and when it was different from what we told him, he wanted to keep me from marrying you. You defied him, obviously, but why? Did you hear what I said earlier? I loved you. I still do. Kirk, Cyril, he put up a hand to halt her. I was mentally dismissing a lot of the information in the retreat, and I can't believe I'm even going to say this, but let's write things from our past that we want to eliminate mentally and emotionally, then burn them in the campfire. Grace agreed and went inside to get pens and paper. Here, Kirk, I brought you a book to write on. The two sat in silence. Kirk finished and rose to add wood to the fire. Grace continued writing, then looked up. 28 pages. Kirk read his first page, then placed it on the fire. Grace did the same. They continued until all that remained was a pile of ashes. Shall we start again? My name is Kirk Subtleford, and you are? Grace DuPont, but I would love to be Subtleford again.